man, what is this weather?
Here we go. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you are in the world. Welcome back to Sip&Talk.
Hey everyone, welcome.
So, you know how our show usually goes. We stick to facts, we do these logical breakdowns.
Facts plus logic, that's the formula.
Right. We try really hard not to get emotional or, just start yelling about things. We're always asking why. What's the motivation here? And yet, we've been getting comments saying we have a clearly obvious stance.
A stance. Our stance is facts. It's wild. When we cite data from Bloomberg or an analysis from The Economist, for some people, the facts themselves are like the offense.
And that really gets to the heart of it. It feels like we're in this post-truth trap.
Yeah.
Does a fact lose its public nature? Does it just become another weapon in an argument?
It's a huge philosophical crisis, and not just for us, but for media everywhere. And that's what we want to get into today.
Our mission for this deep dive is to unpack this very idea. The idea that facts carry bias.
We're going to look at how choosing and framing information, even when it's all true, can lead to totally different conclusions.
Okay, so let's start with the root of the problem, which is, well, us, humans.
Yeah. Always a good place to start.
We can't be these perfect algorithm-generated PDF reports. I was thinking about Jean-Paul Sartre, who argued that, having a viewpoint is part of human dignity.
We define ourselves by what we choose to care about.
Exactly. But our goal here has never been to force our stance on you. It's to give you the logic ammunition to build your own informed view.
One that isn't, hopefully, on the extreme ends of the spectrum.
And this is where that whole illusion of perfect objectivity it shatters. Because the world has an infinite number of facts. Reporting means you have to choose.
Okay, so you're talking about fact selection.
That's the first one. Yeah. Fact selection. Think about a huge political protest.
Mm-hmm.
It's a fact that police took action. It's also a fact that protesters had peaceful demands. But if a news channel spends 90% of its airtime on, one broken window,
and only 10% on the reasons millions of people are in the streets,
then they've already picked a side. The emphasis itself is the stance.
Okay, that makes sense. So that's the first one. What's next?
The framing effect. This is all about language. How the words you choose completely change the interpretation.
Okay, give me an example.
All right, same event. News Report 1 says, police disperse demonstrators.
Sounds pretty standard. Procedural.
Right. Now, Report 2 says, demonstrators face repression.
Whoa. Yeah, that's a whole different feeling. That sounds like an abuse of power.
Same facts.
Yeah.
But disperse versus face repression. It tells you where the sympathy of the outlet is before you even get to the second sentence.
It's like the story's already written for you.
Exactly. And the third piece is all psychological. It's on the audience's side. It's confirmation bias and cognitive dissonance.
This is when facts we present might clash with someone's really deeply held belief, a part of their identity.
And their brain just goes into defense mode. It experiences this, like actual discomfort.
But hold on, couldn't they also just be attacking the source? Because maybe that source has a history of being unreliable.
That's a totally fair point. Trust is a huge factor. But this specific mechanism, this cognitive dissonance, it really kicks in when information threatens who you are. It is so much easier to just call us biased.
To attack the messenger.
Than it is to sit with that discomfort and maybe, just maybe, rethink a core belief.
It's like yelling at your GPS instead of admitting you missed the turn. We just want to blame something else.
And this is happening everywhere. I mean, Pew Research data from 2024 and 2025 shows public trust in media is at a historic low.
I've seen that. It's something like over 70% of people see political bias in reporting.
Yeah. And it suggests people are looking for community identity more than, cold, hard objectivity. They want their team to be validated.
Which means any truly neutral analysis gets seen as an outsider that both sides can agree to attack.
And that's the trap. The damned if you do, damned if you don't trap. If we cite, a top academic journal, we get hit with, oh, you have an elite class stance.
Right. In this populist moment, elite is a four-letter word.
It's the paradox of our time. So to make this real, let's move from the abstract and jump into two big geopolitical case studies. Let's start with China.
Okay, let's do it. We're looking at two main friction points, right? The South China Sea, the SCS, and the whole global supply chain and tech issue.
Let's start with the SCS. The competing ideas are basically, is this a safety threat or is it sovereignty maintenance?
And the difference is the framework you start with.
Exactly. So let's look at the anti-view. This is the criticism coming from the U.S., from allies in the region, from places like CSIS or the New York Times.
Their argument is all about rules uniformity. They see China using what they call gray zone tactics.
The Coast Guard, the fishing fleets.
Right. It's a way to create friction without it being like an official act of war. They see it as a direct challenge to the UN Convention on the Law of the Sea, UNCLOS.
And that creates a security dilemma. Because China's actions are seen as aggressive, so countries like the Philippines or Vietnam, they feel like they have to build stronger military ties with the U.S.
Which China then sees as Western encirclement, so they double down.
It's a textbook vicious cycle. It just keeps escalating.
Okay, so now let's flip it. Let's look at the pro view, the one you hear from Beijing or from a lot of countries in the global south.
Their starting point is totally different. It's not about universal rules. It's about historical right.
The 9-dash line?
Exactly. The argument is that the current international law, UNCLOS, is basically a Western post-colonial invention that doesn't really respect the deep historical context of the region.
So from their perspective, when they build up their presence there, it's not expansion, it's defensive. It's about protecting their energy lifelines, like the Malacca Strait, from being cut off in a conflict.
So you have the same ships in the same sea, but they're either violating international order or they're reestablishing a historical balance of power. Two completely different stories.
All right, let's move to the second battleground. Trade and tech. This one is all about the numbers.
Get this. Bloomberg Economics found in 2025 that China has over 60% of the global market share in green tech. We're talking EVs, batteries.
All while facing record-high tariffs from the U.S. and the EU.
So the anti-view, the Western view, frames this as economic coercion. The accusation is that China is using massive state subsidies to create overcapacity.
Producing way more than they can sell at home.
Yeah, and then dumping the cheap products on the world market, which crushes industries in other countries.
And that's the logic behind de-risking, right? This idea that we need to diversify our supply chains away from China, even if it costs more.
Right. Now, here's where the script totally flips. The pro view says this isn't coercion, this is a global public good.
That China is actually providing affordable green energy for the whole world, especially the global south.
It's a huge point. I mean, UN reports have basically said that without China's massive scale and low costs, hitting the 2050 net zero goals would be almost impossible for developing countries.
So overcapacity is either a dirty word for dumping.
Or is it what some people call technical universalization, the scale you need to make new tech cheap and available for everyone on the planet? Same data. Two completely different narratives.
Wow. Okay, so the China case shows how selecting and framing facts creates these opposing realities. Now let's look at an even more extreme example of how just omitting facts becomes a powerful stance. Media coverage of the Israel-Palestine conflict.
Yeah, and this is a really painful and complex one. It's a masterclass in how editorial choices, even when every single fact reported is true, can lead to what's called the structural erasure of one side's story.
And we have to start with the historical context because that's where the framing begins. Western media has historically tended to frame Israel as the democratic ally, the victim.
Often with a heavy emphasis on the post-Holocaust narrative, which is, of course, a critical piece of the story. But that framing often leaves out or downplays other crucial contexts.
Like the 1948 Nakba, the mass displacement of Palestinians.
Or the Gaza blockade, which has been in place since 2007, for over 15 years. When you systematically ignore those foundational injustices, the causes, then the Israeli military actions that follow, they just look like unprovoked self-defense to someone who doesn't know the full story.
You remove the history, and you're just left with this event-response cycle.
And that creates bias in the coverage. First, you see it in the language.
Language bias.
Right.
Using a word like clashes instead of, say, massacres, or security fence instead of apartheid wall.
The words create a moral hierarchy right there. Then you have the issue of censorship independence. It's been devastating for journalists. Over 150 killed, most of them Palestinian.
And that danger, plus Israeli military censorship, which is reportedly modifying or pulling over 20 news items a day on average, it forces international media to rely on Israeli military sources.
And that reliance creates a huge imbalance. One report found that over a key period, CNN and MSNBC interviewed Israeli spokespeople 19 times without a single challenging substantive counterview.
That's not balance, that's just amplification of one side.
And we can actually quantify this. This isn't just a feeling, it's structural. The Framing Gaza report looked at major Western media And the numbers are just staggering.
Okay.
In the New York Times, for instance, there was about a 187-to-1 ratio of Israeli mentions to Palestinian mentions in headlines.
Wait, 187 to 1?
To 1. So before you even read a single word of the article, the editorial choice of what to put in the headline has already structurally erased one side of the conflict.
It's hard to even process that number.
And it continues in the content. The BBC used the word terrorism in 66% of its articles on Gaza, while mentioning Israeli self-defense nearly 300 times. Again, all while downplaying the context of the blockade. This bias isn't about reporters lying. It's the cumulative effect of all these small editorial decisions.
And the result is the total dominance of one single simplified story.
It's the ultimate post-truth trap.
So after all of this, from the psychology of bias to these massive global conflicts, what's the big takeaway here?
I think it shows that the fundamental conflict in the world today is often between two big ideas. On one side, you have the principle of rules uniformity, the idea that international law should apply to everyone equally.
And on the other,
the principle of balance of power, the argument that reality is about regional powers reordering things based on their historical claims and their current strength.
And it brings us back to something analysts are always saying. Impartiality is not the same as false balance.
Right. If one person is saying it's raining and another is saying it's sunny, your job isn't to quote them both. Your job is to look out the window and see what the weather is.
But the second you do that, the second you say, hey, this person is presenting a falsehood, you get labeled. You're accused of having a stance.
Which means we all have to reject the extremes. Extremism is just. It's a product of lazy thinking. It's comfortable, sure. Having a stance gives your soul a place to rest.
But you can't let it become a prison.
Exactly. Staying open to facts that challenge you. That's what keeps your soul from becoming a prisoner of prejudice.
So, in a way, we have to keep being radical. In a world that often wants comforting narratives over hard truths, just insisting on verifiable facts is maybe the most radical thing you can do.
I think so. And that leaves us with a final thought for you to chew on. Do you believe a stable global order should be built on the uniformity of rules, where everyone plays by the same book? Or should it be based on the messy, shifting, and maybe more realistic balance of power between major global players?
That was a heavy one, but a really important one. Thanks for sticking with us through all that.
And just to be clear, our goal is never to criticize or single out any nation or group. It's just to give you the objective facts and the different frameworks so you can do your own critical, independent thinking.
Absolutely. Don't forget to subscribe to Sip&Talk wherever you get your podcasts.
And check out our old friend Mickey's YouTube channel, Mickytolife, for fun memes and his latest travel vlogs.
We'll see you next time.